We've talked about lots of books and videos and things that can be resources to get you going in falconry. That's very, very important. But today we're going to talk about the most important relationship that you will ever have as a falconer. And that is the relationship between you and your mentor, your sponsor. See, here in North America, falconry is done through an apprenticeship program, which basically means in order to become a falconer, you must apprentice under a general class or master class falconer for 2 years. And in that 2-year period of time, the individual who is your mentor is responsible for your falconry and any mistakes that you make. And so it's a big responsibility, and you got to find the right person to sponsor you. And that's, like I said, the most important relationship that you will ever have. A good relationship between an apprentice and his sponsor will become a lifelong friendship. And it has been for me, for not only my mentor that taught me falconry, but also for the very, very few apprentices that I've had who have graduated through their apprenticeship and become falconers themselves. I consider them some of my dearest friends. To be a good sponsor, you must be willing to dedicate a great deal of time to your student. Your student is getting into something that is extremely complex, extremely time-consuming, and if you're not willing to sit down with your apprentice on a very, very regular basis, sometimes multiple times a week, and walk him through things that falconers who have been falconers like myself for many years, we don't even think about anymore because it's second nature. But to a beginning falconer, it's completely foreign. You know, I mean, literally how to approach a bird when it's on a perch, how to pick up a bird on a perch, how to tie a falconer's knot, how to properly feed the bird without getting the bird to become fist-bound. There's just so many of these little tiny things. You know, I've had apprentices in the past call me on the phone and say, if I touch my bird here, it bites me. What do I do? And I says, don't touch it there. I mean, it's really such fundamental and basic information. But if you don't have a sponsor that is willing to sit down and spend hours teaching you, you're not going to have a great falconry experience. And that's exactly where falconry has kind of had issues here in North America, because we have an awful lot of beginning falconers who will find someone who may be a good falconer but is not a good teacher. And this good falconer doesn't have the time or the patience to teach a new apprentice, and so he's willing to sign his application to become a falconer, and that's it. And there is no instruction past that point. And then I've been to several falconers gatherings where you have apprentices kind of gathered around, and apprentices teaching apprentices, and without supervision. And I see this on the internet all of the time. And this misinformation, bad information, makes it far more difficult for you to be a good falconer and for falconry to progress. You know, I remember a young man at a falconry meet many years ago, 12, 13-year-old kid, too young to be a falconer at the time, was just avid about wanting to ask millions of questions and follow anybody and everybody around that would allow him to do so, and that was just fine. But this young man, like I said, was really, really desperate to become a falconer. 6 months, 8 months, a year later, I went on a falconry chat board where they were discussing different falconry topics and those kinds of things. And here's this kid that is giving falconry advice on flying birds that not only he's never possessed, he has no skills, no knowledge, and people, because they don't know that this is a 12, 13-year-old kid, they're just thinking he's a world-renowned expert on falconry, and it's a shame. It really is a shame because people are so desperate for information, and misinformation is passed along so easily through the internet. So anytime you see a video on YouTube like this one right here, please don't take it as gospel. Look at it. Look at all of the information you have available, and as I always say, best evidence available. So you take all the information in and then try to make a decision as to what the best evidence is for whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish in falconry. And if you've got a good mentor, if you've got a good sponsor, he can help you navigate through all of the pitfalls of trying to become a falconer. So the number one most important relationship you can possibly have is a really, really good mentor, someone that, like I said, will become a lifelong friend. My sponsor for decades and decades, every time I get a new bird, I would call him on the phone, and if I didn't reach him, I'd leave a message and he would call me back, and we would talk about my goals and what I'm attempting to do and the kind of bird that I was flying, and all of the intricacies of falconry within that particular species. Now, after many, many decades, he wasn't telling me anything that I didn't already know, but it was out of respect for my sponsor and out of a love and respect that he had for me that we would have these conversations, and I treasured those conversations. He was a dear, dear friend, and I was so fortunate because this particular mentor that I had that taught me falconry was a multi-generational Hungarian falconer. He was a falconer, his father was a falconer, his grandfather was a falconer, and so on. And so I got taught the wisdom of falconry from many, many generations, and that really means a great deal to me. So, again, regulations, memorize them. It's very, very important that you know the laws dealing with falconry. Collect all of the data and information, books, videos, go to club meetings if you have clubs, a falconry club within your area. Find yourself a sponsor, and you may have to find a sponsor. It has to be within your state, and so that sponsor, best option is for the sponsor to be within your community. But I have sponsored falconers that were as much as 200 miles away, and we were constantly on the phone, and I was either constantly driving up to visit with them, literally weekly, or they were coming down here and making the long distance work for us. But that is really tough. And so if you can get a good sponsor and you can get one that's close to you, that's the best option. You can get a list of sponsors from your local Fish and Game. They will have a list of qualified falconers that are willing to teach. And so again, a good reason to contact your local Fish and Game. Anyway, that's this little video today on getting your sponsor to help sponsor you, and he will be your mentor for 2 years. So remember that. This is not just a hobby that you're going to get into and decide this is boring, and a month or two later you go to something else. This is truly a lifestyle. So thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you soon.